Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla Glumac and I have an ileostomy bag, and today we're talking about my birth story. She's here, it's so exciting. So my birth story starts last week, 11 days ago. No, it starts 13 days ago actually. So I had gone in on a Tuesday for my regular appointment. So I was 38 weeks plus 6 days, so almost 39 weeks along, and I was just going in for my weekly appointment with my OBGYN, and I had noticed I felt a little bit off earlier that day, and I just felt like I could feel my heart beating, you know what I mean? A couple days before that, I thought for sure I was going into labor in the middle of the night on Sunday because I had about an hour's worth of contractions every 3 minutes apart, or what I thought were contractions. So once I was on the exercise ball, I was feeling them pretty regularly. I was timing them out and I'm like, all right, it's time to go. As soon as I got up and woke up Keith and was like, let's go to the hospital, they stopped. Well, they stalled out. So then I was only feeling them every 12 minutes. And so we drove all the way into the hospital. In the parking lot, I was like, let's wait till these ramp back up because I don't want to get sent home. And they never really ramped back up. So I was like, oh, shoot, it was a false alarm. So we went back home, went back to bed, all of that kind of thing. And then on Tuesday, when I went to my normal doctor appointment, we noticed that my blood pressure was high. So we're talking 130s over 90s. The recheck was about 145 over 108. And it just seemed to stay higher than it usually is. For me, typically I have a higher heart rate anyway. Oh, yes. But my doctor was, she's like, it's kind of borderline getting a little bit high, and I just don't want you to become more of an emergent kind of situation if you were to let it go and if your blood pressure were to continue to get higher. So she made the decision to induce me that night. So she said, go ahead, go home, get your hospital bag packed, and then we'll call you and let you know when you can come in later that night. So this is about 3:30 in that afternoon. So I, went home. We got the call around 5 to say, come on in whenever you can and we'll get you started with the induction. So about 6 p.m. we arrived, and by 9 p.m. we got the Cervidil started. So that is something that helps to thin your cervix, not necessarily dilate it, but help to thin it out and kind of get that process started. So my doctor had checked in with me and she said the game plan is pretty much going to be, we'll do Cervidil for 12 hours. It gets placed up into your cervix, helps to thin the cervix for about 12 hours. Then take it out and go ahead and start Pitocin to get those contractions starting and really get the dilation process in. So that night, I didn't really sleep at all that night because I had contractions throughout that whole time, and they were decently strong, so it was kind of hard to even want to fall asleep during that. And I just had an idea of oh, we're starting this and then I'll have her in the morning. So spoiler alert, it was a lot longer of a labor and delivery process than I thought it was going to be. So I feel like there's just no rhyme or reason to what you can expect out of a labor and delivery because everyone is so different and everyone's process is so different too. My biggest fears in having an ileostomy bag with, delivering a baby was, how am I going to empty it during that whole time? Is it going to fill fast? It was one of those things I was I didn't know what to expect with it. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But anyway, so as the night went on, my contractions really started kicking up around 2 a.m. And I was like, shoot, I still have until 8 or 9 a.m. that next day until the Cervidil comes out. And I wanted to make sure that I was even dilating because at that point I was only about 1.5 centimeters dilated at my appointment that afternoon. So I was like, oh, I knew I wanted to get an epidural for helping with conserving my energy for when it was time to push and really kind of getting that pain under control. So my night nurse said that there were supposed to be 2 people that were already on the schedule for C-sections. So she said, whenever you feel like asking for an epidural, maybe kind of ask for it a little bit sooner than you're thinking because it'll take a while to get to you since the anesthesiologist will be in with the C-sections first. So That morning at about 8:15 a.m., my doctor came in and checked on me to see how everything was going, checked my dilation. I was about 2, almost 3 centimeters dilated. So she went ahead and took the cervidil out, which that's kind of cool actually, because the cervidil was only meant to like thin the cervix. Now, I'm not a medical professional, so this is just my understanding as a patient. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm just kind of sharing this from a patient perspective and what my experience was. And also too, I was very tired. So if I get any details wrong, just take that with a grain of salt. So anyway, from my understanding, the cervidil just thins the cervix, but my body was naturally dilating from all the contractions, so that's great. So I was 2, almost 3 centimeters dilated, and she removed the cervidil and then went ahead and broke my water. So I was like, cool, this is gonna get started. I'm probably gonna have her in the next couple hours. Wrong. So then, the contractions really started ramping up. Once my water broke, oh my gosh, it was like, it felt so painful that I couldn't really like catch my breath to like breathe through them, you know what I mean? So I was like, you know what, it's time to call for the epidural, because who knows how long it's going to take to get that anyway. So I asked for it at about 9 a.m. 9:40, they had actually called on an extra anesthesiologist, so he was able to come in and do my epidural, which was a relief to be able to finally rest, because I'd pretty much been like up and feeling pain since 9 p.m. Since 2 a.m. So anyway, then the whole day, it was kind of like rest when you can, feeling seeing the contractions on the monitor, but not necessarily feeling them, but thinking like, I gotta be dilating, right? So we decided to not start the Pitocin just yet because my body was naturally dilating. And it was just like 4 centimeters by 1 p.m. So we decided to start the Pitocin at that time. And that's when, it started to really ramp up all of the contractions and everything. So then at about 3 p.m., I was 5 centimeters dilated, which was making progress, but I just really felt like I would have delivered her by then. So it was just a hurry up and wait process the whole day. Later on that day, about 6 p.m., I was finally 7 centimeters dilated and like, okay, come on, the end's gotta be near. I was so nauseous throughout it all too. I ended up asking for Zofran because I just was like, ooh, every position change would get me so nauseous that I would, get sick, which was great. Okay, so after I was about 7 centimeters dilated, the Pitocin got increased every so often to really kind of get everything going a little bit more. Right at midnight, I was finally 10 centimeters dilated and ready to go, and I felt like the urge to push, which I was always nervous about. I was like, first of all, when I get an epidural, what am I gonna feel? Because I've, kind of like researched a lot of it, and I knew to expect that you'd still feel like the pressure down there and like the urge to push, or you could or you couldn't, who knows? Everyone is so different. But then I was like, how am I gonna know? And also, if I have the epidural, what happens with my ostomy bag, And so with the epidural during the day, whenever I had to empty my ostomy bag, obviously you can't get up and walk to the bathroom and empty it as normal. So I just asked for an emesis bag, one of the like throw up bags, and I just emptied it like right there in the bed. My nurse was really good. Both my nurses, the day and the night nurse, they just said, however you need me to help you, like, let me know. So it was really a good way to kind of educate them too about what it's like to treat someone with an ileostomy bag. So I love all those opportunities to be able to share a little bit about our life too, because sometimes it can become so second nature to us that we forget that other people don't really know how to care for something like that. So it was kind of cool to teach someone like that. But anyway, if they don't see it every day, Okay, so then it came time to feeling like I gotta push, and you do still feel that like urge when it's time to push. And so my nurse was like, let's go ahead and do some practice pushes, because sometimes when it's your first baby, it can often take an hour or two of pushing before it actually becomes to be the real thing. So she called my doctor and said like, hey, we're gonna start practice pushing, we'll keep you updated. I was really good at practice pushing, it seems, because then her head started to crown. So she was like, okay, we're calling the doctor. So my doctor got there about 15 minutes later, maybe not even, it was pretty quick. And then after we started like actually pushing, she arrived 30 minutes later, so right at 1 a.m. on the dot. And I will say that the pain was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Like really, if I had to sum it up, pregnancy was a lot easier than I thought it would be with an ileostomy. And really the only thing that changed was like the stoma size, but my ostomy really didn't interfere with pregnancy at all. It seemed normal. Oh, are you sick of me talking? I'll be done quick. But then labor and delivery was okay, I'm almost done. Labor and delivery was a lot more painful than I thought it was going to be, but everybody's experience is so different, so just take that for what it is. I ended up, feeling like every time I pushed, I could see her head like starting to come out, and it was so painful that I was like, I know I have to push to that point and then further each round of pushing. So I was like, let's just go for it. I need to get her out one way or the other, So I went ahead and pushed her out, and I got a 2nd-degree tear and 12 stitches. Oh, like that's so much. But anyway, everything is healed pretty well so far. I think we're 11 days postpartum and I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like one of those things that I do for myself in this postpartum time is, get ready. Even if it's way late in the day, doing a little bit of makeup or some sort of self-care really helps me feel like myself. When it came to actually pushing, one of the things that I was really nervous about was, for one, can I have a vaginal delivery? Which, yes, you can. Just having an ileostomy bag doesn't mean that you have to have a C-section, which is really great in my book. It was like I was willing to do that if we had to, but because I'd already been through an abdominal surgery or a couple of them, I wasn't really wanting to have another one if I could, prevent it. So the other thing I was nervous about was when I was pushing, I was nervous that it would potentially cause a hernia around my stoma. And I knew of somebody else I'd heard that they had a nurse like push or like put pressure on the stoma just as like a counter pressure to help kind of prevent that or act as like a hernia belt. But I didn't do any of that. I just, I delivered on my back, holding my legs up. And so I don't know if that helped to prevent that or what, but anyway, I didn't have any sort of complications at all with labor and delivery. So my experience was overall very positive, even though it was painful. But she's here now, she's healthy. One of the things throughout my pregnancy, I ended up having appointments with a maternal fetal specialist. So they're like a high-risk pregnancy doctor. And we did a scan every 4 weeks just to make sure that she was growing at the right rate. She ended up being 7 pounds, 11 ounces, and 20¼ inches. So that is a great size baby, average, One of the risks that you can have having ulcerative colitis is that the babies can be low birth weight. So that's something that they wanted to keep an eye on, is as I was going through pregnancy, that she was growing at the right rate too. So everything turned out really well, and I'm so happy to be a mom finally. It's something that I've been wanting for years, and I feel like it's one of those things that fate really comes into play. Keith and I, we met just a little over a year ago, and it's something that we both really wanted to be as parents, and everything just works out for a reason. And I think this was one of those reasons, because he is such a good dad and spouse and everything that it makes this whole experience a lot easier too. But if you have any specific questions, feel free to let me know. I can either answer in the comments or make a follow-up video to that as well. But thank you so much for joining me. I think she's getting a little tired of being in here now, so I'll go ahead and take her out and kind of go on with my day. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.